Hello, everybody.
Let's go.
Technical difficulties.
Oh, wow. What a start. That's incredible. All right. How's it going, everybody? It's the Dumb Guy Live. You know, I'm something of a Joshi fan myself. We're gonna go right into it. I'm not into like making it a huge whole deal, but we are gonna introduce ourselves. Everybody, I mean, I would assume if you follow Wrestle Purists, you kind of know who I am by now. We also obviously have Monty, the head honcho, the big jefe over here. But we have a couple kind of fresh faces, and I don't mean that just because of their age, but we have a couple fresh faces here that we want to introduce. We got Jack over here. We got Murph Dog, and we got Jamie, our young lion here at Wrestle Purist. He's repping the merch. He's got do that again, bro. Let me see that.
We have Wrestle Purist merch.
Let's fucking go. I need that shit. Yeah, here we're gonna go. All right, so Murph, we'll start with you. Just like who the hell are you?
So I'm a kid that, fell into the hole that was wrestling Twitter. It's so bad. I want to get off it. I'm kidding. And I decided, I found Parker early on. I remember the first tweet I ever saw Parker was I think he was like talking about Dave speculating like Momo Watanabe is fat. Is actually yeah, I saw Parker and I was like, oh, this guy seems pretty cool, like normal. So, I started talking to him and, and then I met Monty and I met all the characters, Ibu, all those people. It's, and, I was on the first like Wrestle Purist podcast, like one of the first couple, and I haven't been on one since. So happy to make my return and let's go.
Let's do this. Welcome, Murph. And yeah, even though he'll be going by Murph in this bitch.
Call me Murph. I'll just make it Murph.
Yeah. You should do that actually. Jamie, who the hell are you, young man?
So I was on wrestling. I wasn't really on wrestling Twitter. I just sort of observed wrestling Twitter. I'm not very active. I followed the Wrestle Purist account. I saw, looking for writers. So I threw my hat in there, threw my name into the hat, and put a sample in, got on there, and I've been on the news ever since. Pretty much every day. Do the features, stuff like that. Finally got the call up to the podcast, and we're here.
The unsung hero of Wrestle Purists,
we love Jamie. Jamie,
I love his Liverpoolian accent. Sounds like Jamie Carragher.
Yeah,
no, like aside from Monty, Jamie does more for Wrestle Purist than probably anybody in terms of like
factual.
I do nothing. I wrote one article and I rate matches.
I'm here because I'm a motherfucking draw on the podcast and people like what I have to say. And yeah, Murph and I, if you've ever listened, we do spaces pretty frequently called Dumb Guy Chats. That's where we got the name. And so it's usually a pretty chill conversation, just mostly just chatting about wrestling and all that type of stuff. But we do have an actual like agenda and docket for today, which is the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, which is, I would say, it's probably like Waterloo, Iowa, where the one Hall of Fame is, and then this Hall of Fame in terms of like the most prestigious wrestling Hall of Fames out there.
It's pretty much the Cooperstown equivalent, I'd say. I don't think I'm in the WWE. You got the WWE Hall of Fame, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, with like Drew Carey and like
Trump's in it.
Yo, hold on, check this out.
Whoa!
Oh, 6-star. We love 6-star. Oh, I took it away. 6-star is a beast with the $20 super chat. 6-star. If you have any questions for us, just like throw them in the chat. And we will answer them for a little bit. We also have not my white ass watching Dumb Guy Live. Scarecrow, by the way, not white. He's a black man and he's very short too. Yeah. I just had to throw that in there.
I feel like Trump. Like, there's my African American. Like the way I said that.
Murph, why? Okay, so we're gonna get started with it. But yeah, Observer Hall of Fame. So for the first year, I have a ballot. I wrote for the Observer for a long time, and I guess I still kind of do. I'm like retired. Hey Jamie, Lewis Browning wants to know about your group chat.
Oh God, yeah, just a group chat of wrestling fans. The only other people on Twitter that I speak to besides you guys. What's it called right now? It's had many names. It's called Scissoring Session right now, apparently. So,
Very cool.
Wow.
shout out.
Love it.
Lewis of Wrestle Purist News is also in that group chat. That's how I found him.
Love it.
So I hate. I did not like the Acclaimed for a long time until I went to Forbidden Door, and that's where I met Murph. Actually, we met each other.
We met in Forbidden Door.
And when the Acclaimed came out, and were they on the pre-show, Murph?
Yeah, it was them and
Yeah.
it was them and the Ash Boys versus what's it called? The Young Lions, the LA Dojo.
Oh yeah. And so when they came out, and they were like, "Scissor me, daddy," or whatever, and I scissored the dude next to me. I was sold. I was like, these guys are the best. I love the Acclaimed. We also got Frisco. Murph, don't embarrass yourself. Name your favorite black movies.
I'm gonna go with Boys in the Hood. It's a
That's a
classic.
good. All right, that's good. That's a good answer.
What are you
Jamie
expecting
Coon.
me to say?
I don't know.
I need Parker's answer here.
I like Tales from the Hood. I think Tales from the Hood is really like funny and scary, and at the same time, which is good. And it's also like topical. I may watch that shit actually. That's pretty good. We got Kwame in the chat too. That's fantastic. All right, awesome.
Shout out Kwame.
All of our
I
characters.
love Kwame. He's the best guy. He's such a sweetheart. He needs to get on a pod. Oh man, bro, these super chats are crazy.
Jamie's the draw here.
Yeah, geez. Who's
It's the
Muhammad?
merch, bro. You know, he's repping the brand. He's got the merch. I didn't even know until about 5 minutes before we went live that he had this merch. Pop, fucking huge, bro. But
It was great. Monty like lost it in the pre-show lobby. He couldn't believe it. It was so good. And then
good
we
stuff.
got another. Is this a different Lewis, Jamie?
Lewis, this is Wrestle Purist Lewis. He does the news as well.
Got you. Thank you, News Lewis. How do I not know you if you're Wrestle Purist, Lewis? How about you throw me a follow?
He's like
All right.
Top Dollars buddy. We don't know him.
Top dollars, buddy. Parker. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't know who this is, but they do this every time I'm on a pod, and it's concerning. The avatar is crazy. But they do this every. All right. Wait, who's got an echo now? Okay. Anyway, let's actually shall we like do the podcast? What do you guys think?
I think we should.
All right. So Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. It's a big deal. The way the like entries work, it's like kind of complex. I don't want to go into the minutiae of it, but essentially you can't pick more than so Dave Meltzer sends out a list of our categories: historical, US, Canada, Japan, Mexico, and Europe, and non-wrestlers. And he's like, okay, these are all the people who are on the ballot this year that you are able to vote for. And you are not allowed to vote for more than 5 people within those categories. So for some categories, I actually thought this made the US-Japan category or the US-Canada category and the Japan category both very difficult to narrow down to 5. So it was really fun though. So I have a ballot for the first time. Murph has a ballot for the first time. Jamie does not have a ballot as of now, but he'll get one. He'll get one of these ballots one of these days. And we're just going to go over some of the candidates, and maybe we'll get some agreements, get some disagreements, and we'll just kind of talk about who we have voted for.
I believe, unless what's it called, Izzy, the Bailey girl, got a ballot. I believe I'm the youngest person in the history of Wrestling Observer to get a ballot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. Where do we want to start, guys?
But also, I am abstaining from historical and Europe. I don't really know much, so I'm keeping my white ass out of there.
Right. So so another thing is like you're allowed to abstain from certain categories if you don't know a lot about that. I am also abstaining from Europe, but I did vote. Yes, I am including one historical era consideration there. So here's what we have. Let's start with the big draw. Let's go with US Canada, right? So I'm going to just go through like everyone really quickly. It's going to be annoying a little bit, but just to give you a sense of who's on the ballot. So we got Tully and Arn, Junkyard Dog, Lawler and Dundee, Edge, Goldberg, Hardys, Becky, The Outsiders, Orndorff, Orton, New Age Outlaws, Punk, Roman, Slaughter, Trish, the Steiners, and the Von Erichs. These are the people on the ballot so far. So obviously these people are not yet in the Hall of Fame. I want to start with one that's kind of controversial, and that would be Sergeant Slaughter. He was one of the closest people who got on the ballot last year, and if he is not elected this year, he will fall off the ballot.
Oh shit!
And he is not on mine. I do not think that out of the candidates listed, he is in the top 5.
I did not vote for. I do not have Sergeant Slaughter because I mean he's a big name, but he didn't really draw well. I don't believe. I don't think he was that big of a draw historically, and I feel like he's more
in the territories, brother. You know.
I feel like he's just not like when you have 5 slots. Like if you had 8 slots, Sergeant Slaughter would get in, but with 5 slots, it's just hard. So
for sure, I would say I would say either him, and we'll get to this in a little bit, or Randy Orton was my toughest omission in the U.S. Canada part.
100%.
Yeah, but
Randy was. So, I went back and forth and forth, and I decided last minute that Randy wouldn't be out of my ballot. So those two.
Yeah, I'll get to Orton in a second because his omission is actually, I think, my toughest, and it's interesting why I omitted him. But the Slaughter, I think, justification is that he main evented Mania, and he was one of the early major draws when it was coming to, or the major, I guess, focus is on TV when it came to WWF making like a worldwide push, right? Or at least a nationwide push, as opposed to just being kind of a local thing, right? So, and I think you can say that his like cultural, no, maybe if you multiply that by 100, I'll do it. But we'll think about it. I don't have a blade on me, unfortunately. Thank you, Chris. So yeah, G.I. Joe. My big like reason that I'm not voting for him is that I think he fucking sucked, and that I didn't think he was like good at his job, if that makes sense. Like I guess he got heat, right? Like people hated him, especially when he was right, the Iraqi sympathizer character. But that was like one of the more like shitty gimmicks of all time, in my opinion. Just like exploitative too. And I just was never like that much of a fan of Slaughter as like a wrestler or performer, and so for that reason, I don't consider him a Hall of Famer. Jamie, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like out of the options you've listed there, like I've not looked into the ballot too much myself. Obviously, I've not got a vote yet. We'll get there, but I think stuff as it is, because he's not going to be on if he misses out this year. I think there are more worthy candidates. So if I was to cast my own ballot, I think he'd miss out on mine as well, just purely off body of work, influence, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So another one I want to get to is the comparison between Randy Orton and Edge, who for years now have had very similar resumes and cases and careers.
And their careers felt like linked in a way. It feels like, well, I mean,
they were literally a tag team at one point.
They were a tag team. Edge's first feud when coming out of his injury was Randy Orton. I mean that kind of hurt both of their cases, but
fair.
Hey, greatest match ever was pretty good.
Greatest match ever was good, but the water torture match was just
the water torture.
That's a classic like image of Dave and Brian and one other person, right? Being like, this is like the worst shit I've ever seen, and then Ryan Satin is like,
Sap.
and Sap, and then Ryan Satin is like, this is so cool. This is like good shit, man. That's pretty good. Yeah, so they have super similar. Oh god, AO in the chat. That's problematic. He's trolling right now.
Give him the.
I know. He's being very. It's too much. No, not on the. No, this is not what the WI fan part is. What is this? So with Edge and Orton, right? I think they have similar longevity. I mean, obviously Orton wrestled for a lot for during the time that Edge took that long absence. But at the same time, I think within their careers, Orton has been injured a lot more. He's taken a lot of time off over the years, like he's injured right now, right?
Neck, shoulder,
and he also started a few years after Edge did. I think at their peak, Orton was the bigger star. I think that's difficult to argue, but I think when you combine Edge's innovation in TLC matches, the fact that he was linked to so many like era-defining moments, whether it comes to those TLC matches, being working with Kurt, moving on into feuding with Undertaker, and having some of he was one of the big catalysts for Undertaker becoming this like actual all-time great in terms of an in-ring wrestler, right? Main evented WrestleMania, which Orton did as well. And I also just think overall Edge is a better performer than Edge. That's kind of the tiebreaker for me. I just enjoy Edge as a wrestler.
Randy Orton was my last man out. If we're gonna use like the NCAA tournament terms.
Yep, same.
Personally, I did not give Edge too much of a consideration. I think Edge was a big star, but I feel like if Edge competed for that time when he was out, I feel like it would be a no-brainer. But there's just such a big hole there that it's tough for me when there's better candidates. And honestly, I'm going to say this. If Edge and Christian as the tag team was on here, I feel like they would even have a stronger case than Edge as a single star. That may just me personally. I think
that'd be interesting. That's interesting. And you love Christian. I know that too.
See, if Christian was on the ballot, he'd be on here. But
right.
Randy Orton was my last man out. There was another candidate which I was just pushed over the top because there was just an older candidate that I felt was a better choice for the spot. But I think Edge and Randy would probably be on a lot of ballots, and I can't fault you if you have them on your ballot. It's just that I had to omit them from mine.
I'm just thinking of when Edge, I think there were so many times when he was like the highlight of a show or put on an awesome match or something like that.
A couple months ago, and Edge was over. I was like, what?
And I just don't feel like collectively Orton ever had. I mean, he had moments where he was.
I feel like
Orton's
heated. Star power is honestly from outside of wrestling because that meme. I feel like people overstate how big Randy Orton is because he's RKO out of nowhere, Randy Orton. But I mean, what is he? 4-time world champion, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, but I think he's 2-time Royal Rumble winner. I mean, he's won everything that he could win, but I just think that that Randy, if he stays on the ballot, he could come out in a little. He could come in a little bit, but I think that Randy and Edge both will not be on my ballot this year, and I don't know if they're going to make it.
Jamie, would you out of those? I know I named a lot, but did Orton or Edge stand out to you? And if not, maybe, or if both did, which of them do you think you would maybe prefer over the other? Because I think Murph and I are in agreement. They both have very similar cases.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree on that point. I think they're two names that have been linked for a lot of their career.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like you say, Edge has missed a huge chunk, whereas Randy's been pretty constant present since his debut until very recently. Edge's recent run has been divisive to say the least, whereas Randy's most recent run with Riddle and stuff,
I think that it's not crazy to say that Randy and it's honestly a point for Randy's run with Matt Riddle as RK Bro has honestly maybe been arguably the best in-ring run of his career.
It's 100% strengthened his case.
That's such a good formula. I mean, Riddle's he's very good in-ring wrestler, and being the babyface, get the crowd on their feet tag team has really been great. But I think that also I still cannot, even though I just gave him that little case, I don't think Randy should make it in.
Yeah, as I was thinking, I just want to say, sorry, who else was going to say something?
I was just going to say, when you think about it, Edge, since he's came back, he's came back and, he's been over and, but has he really, strengthened his case as much? There's been hits and misses, but even the hits, okay, he's in the main event of Mania. It was a good match.
Yeah, but, I was going to say, I think so. Main eventing Mania, winning the Rumble, I think right now, the fact that and also the fact that he had the like wherewithal to be like, this Judgment Day shit is like fucking awful, and I need to like be out of it and do something else. And he turned Judgment Day, which was literally the worst thing in WWE, except maybe like Theory, and he turned it into one of the hottest feuds like on the roster, which I think is a super testament to his work. And if you, like Murph said, if you go to live crowds, he's like the most over guy who regularly is there in the company, outside of like maybe Bray,
Rock.
So, and Roman, yeah, of course. But yeah, I definitely think it has. The other thing I was thinking with Edge, I think there's a couple iconic moments, like, and if you don't value these as much, that's fine. But I just think like the live sex celebration and the cash in formula, the Money in the Bank cash in, like those,
which
are
I love,
huge.
by the way. Like I like, not to go off on a tangent here, but like everyone was like, "Oh, thank God MJF didn't do like the cash in." You know what? Cash ins are sick. You know, so I mean, that's all I'll say on that.
Putting himself over.
Thank you, Lexi. Okay, cool. That was fun. Let's go on to so let's actually talk about who we are electing. So Edge is one of mine. I do think he gets in on that, although he is my last one that I put in. I'm gonna start with the one that I think this is like the most slam dunk entry for me out of the entire list, and it's CM Punk.
Wow.
I think CM Punk is the best wrestler of his generation. I think he was uniquely innovative in a way that perhaps only he could have been in WWE. He was practically the only like legendarily compelling thing in WWE within like a decade span of themselves, from aside from maybe like the streak from like 09 to like TakeOver.
You're forgetting someone.
Who am I forgetting? Cena. Yeah.
Yes, movement.
Oh,
That's
Brian.
true.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. But in any case, like, and even the Yes movement, like, didn't even like touch Summer.
Yeah, he didn't have like the impact that like Punk.
No,
like, not anywhere near.
The only person who legitimately was able to get, you know, Cena consistently booed, not just like an ECW one night stand type thing, but I think that's a testament to him, because there were a lot of fans that really wanted to boo John Cena, but it wasn't happening.
I also I agree with Parker. I voted for CM Punk. While I don't condone what he's done over the last couple months,
yeah, he's a bit of a lunatic.
So you still do improv? I'm sorry. Well, I don't condone. I still think CM Punk is one of the greatest wrestlers to ever live. Probably top 5. I think that this recent run in AEW has like cemented that as one of the best. And you know, I feel like it's just a no-brainer slam dunk pick. I would not be surprised if the anti-Punk sentiment right now would cost him from getting that threshold this year. But I think that if they did this like a couple months earlier, I think it's a slam dunk. And even his drawing power, the guy's drawn everywhere he's gone. I mean, he drew in WWE. I mean, I remember going to the Royal Rumble in 2014 in Pittsburgh. They can't really get over 7,500 for anything in Pittsburgh any of these days. Punk advertises #1 for the Rumble, sold like 16,000 tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, he's faced the Undertaker at WrestleMania and had a great match there. He's won the AEW World Championship, ROH World Championship. I think both WWE World the heavyweight and the.
Buzz?
I think he's.
Oh, sorry. I think it's actually me. My bad.
He's won the Royal Rumble. You know, he's basically done everything there is in the business, and he's drawn everywhere. I mean, he drew that 18,000 to the T-Mobile Arena this year. The first dance. Honestly, if you just put the first dance on a paper and said that's his case, like he would get votes. So I think for that only, I think CM Punk's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Jamie, what do you think about Punk?
I mean, yeah, I agree. If I was doing a balance, I think he'd be my #1 pick. You know, the amount of people that you hear who say, that's what like Summer of Punk WWE 2011 run that either kept them in or brought them back to wrestling when they've lapsed fans. You know, his influence is massive. Ring of Honor run, legendary. WWE run, same. AEW run, just as good as well. Obviously, it's come to well, seemingly come to a unfortunate end. But the body of work speaks for itself, and like one of the most influential names.
Kind of a unfortunate ending in some eyes. Some people, friends of mine, have told me it was kind of awesome.
Murph, did you? Yeah, it's not. By the way, it's really bad and it sucks. But Murph, do you have anybody else on your list who you thought was just like a slam dunk for the U.S. Canada section?
I thought Junkyard Dog was a slam dunk, and I'm
Yeah,
shocked he
too.
wasn't in earlier. I think that I mean, they still like, oh, Kenny Omega draws, but I mean, for that time he drew. He was one of the first, I believe. Well, I mean, I just don't know. I mean, he's one of the first African American stars. Like, I can't really think of many.
Yeah, he was a legitimate. He was no African American.
I didn't want to say it until I like thought about it for a second.
No, you're good.
I
No African American wrestler had drawn to the level that he drew up until that point.
No, I mean, he's just an innovator, and he's a name. Like he's a name, and I feel like he's had enough cultural impact on wrestling. Where Junkyard Dog, I mean, he has to get in. Like I think he has to get in, and it would be recency bias if he didn't get in.
I completely agree. So I took down notes for everybody who I'm voting for. He was an unbelievable draw, even more so than I think a lot of people realize, for Mid-South Wrestling. He wrestled over 10 Superdome main events in New Orleans. Which
I didn't even know they had wrestling there outside WrestleMania. So
right, which is insane, right? And of course, he was also in WWF for a long time. Really, I think the only argument against him is that he might not have been the best, like most compelling performer to a lot of people in modern eyes. And I agree with that. Like I've watched JYD matches and the heat's great, but I've never been like, this guy was an innovator or anything like that. But at the same time, I think his unique pioneership in terms of breaking down racial barriers, in addition to his sheer drawing power, I believe at one point he made more money on a like per night basis than anybody except Hulk in the United States. I think that's like that's saying something. So like the comparison today would be
the work rate argument as well. It's just like in that time it was all about the heat. And he drew heat, he drew money. And honestly, when you was listing off the names on the ballot, he's the only one who stood out to me. Like, how the fuck is he not in the Hall of Fame? So I don't like I said, I don't know how he's not in there. So I'd be surprised again if he don't make it again this year.
I want to shout out Rich Latta, who
it was a great article. I
put a piece out for Voices of Wrestling. That's like how the hell is JYD not in the Hall of Fame? And I think somebody in the chat has even talked about it. Yeah. So I mean, for sure, he's absolutely a slam dunk candidate, and I think he will get in this year. I think there's been like I think out of anybody, and tell me if you disagree, I think he has the most buzz out of anybody this year from what I've seen among voters, of being somebody who a lot of people are like, yeah, he deserves to be in.
Yeah. I agree, and let's move on to the next guy. I think, right? Ready to do that? So
yeah, let's do it. So
give me your next two that you haven't said.
Okay. So I've said Punk, Edge, and Junkyard Dog. I also had Paul Orndorff.
I also have Paul Orndorff.
All right, we're on the same page here. Orndorff main evented Mania.
The first Mania.
The first Mania. Yep. So uniquely, special there. He was a legit top level draw for over a decade in terms of headlining tours for WWF, which was the largest wrestling promotion in the country,
and WCW too, which is
part
of the reason the fact that he was able to be a big star in one company and then seamlessly transition over to the next, which I'm going to get to a little later in my next candidate.
I think the biggest like bullet point in favor of Orndorff. I also just want to shout out, like, I think he's way more compelling than a lot, like, just as a performer. He was so entertaining, especially on the mic. I felt like
wonderful.
He did really well. But he is one half of the top drawing North American tour of all time in terms of wrestling. And that's alongside Hulk Hogan. They toured like the Northeast in Canada, I believe. And so, I mean, like we need. That's one of those things where I'm like, man, Main Event Mania and have that accolade, like, and you were just like really good. You should probably be in there.
I agree.
So yeah, my last one is the Hardys, the Hardy Boys. I got a tag team in here. I just think they were so uniquely innovative in terms of their wrestling. They were the drivers behind those TLC matches, right? They were the ones who made those happen. Great longevity too. I mean, they've been wrestling together for nearly 30 years at this point, which is pretty crazy. 25 years about. They also had some really cool, innovative stuff in like Ring of Honor, where they were doing Supercard of Honor and all that type of stuff. They also were in Impact with the Hardy Compound and everything like that. They were huge innovators there, where Matt Hardy was doing like some of the most interesting stuff in wrestling at the time. And it's almost like a negative thing because I think a lot of people have really tried to do that campy stuff since Hardy did that, right? And have like failed. So that's cool. And then, yeah, I mean, they wrestled on pay-per-view against the Bucks this year. That longevity is pretty much unmatched for a top-level tag team. Oh, and by the way, they were incredible wrestlers and teammates. So, yeah, they're in for me.
I did not vote for the Hardys. I think they were in the similar to Randy Orton Edge, where they're like the first man out. I did vote for a tag team, though. And the tag team I voted for was the team of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Because I felt like their cultural impact, just showing up at the Bash at the Beach. And, the fact that they were big stars in WF before. And I feel like the click, like the big moment, the curtain call is probably the right word to say it, is just so iconic. And it really just broke down the barrier of kayfabe, if you think about it in a way. Like just that, like
yeah, that's a big moment. That's a good call.
How innovative that is. And then they went to WCW. They were big stars, huge stars, and then I love it. And they kept going, and they went into TNA. They drew at the beginning. They drew some ratings, TV ratings. So, and I just think their cultural impact. I think that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash is a no-brainer pick for me, at least. And I should probably go to my last pick because I haven't said this, and this is a bold pick. Which I don't think anyone expects. Bill Goldberg
Goldberg. Why Goldberg?
Goldberg, number one, is a huge draw. I mean, even to this day, TV draw is everywhere, and I think, he drew some houses. Georgia Dome is one definitely, and for WCW, he was WCW's top star for a lot of its entirety. The streak is just so iconic, and people are still like replicating that streak with like Jade Cargill and AEW, and I feel like Goldberg's return. I mean, I'm a Goldberg fan. Like if you keep to the short formula, like 5 to 8 minute matches, just like playing, and I think that just for the long term drawing power, and just the fact that his longevity is honestly another thing. I think Bill Goldberg is my fifth person. So,
Big Bill.
Jamie, the Bill. Jamie, is there anybody else who sticks out to you out of the people that we mentioned that you think that you agree with us that you think should be in, or anybody who you're like maybe they should be in too? Anything like that?
So I think out of the last few people mentioned, the Hardys, Hall and Nash, and Goldberg. So I think I'll probably be debating between Hall and Nash and the Hardys. Goldberg would just miss out for me, I think. I think Hall and Nash, obviously, NWO, like the formation of that, and all throughout the Monday Night Wars, like, one of the most legendary stables that, it was like crazy at the time, obviously. But I do think the Hardys, if we're voting in as a tag team, I feel like their longevity and run as a team more so than like Hall and Nash, more so as I think of them more as singles guys than I feel like the Hardys fit better as a team for a vote. I put them in on that basis.
I get that too. I did not even really consider Hall and Nash just because like I feel like they didn't like wrestle that much. You know what I'm saying? Like put on a really good, compelling match. There were a ton of angles and promos and all that type of stuff, and obviously hugely influential in the NWO. But for Hall and Nash, I'm like their big unique claim to fame is the like invasion, when they first show up. But outside of that, I don't know what Hall and Nash specifically provide that the NWO does not, if that makes sense. So in the NWO, I'm not sure if they're in or if that's an eligibility thing or whatever, but just about everybody in the NWO is in some capacity. So, all right, cool. That was fun. US, Canada. Let's move on to Japan, which I think is the toughest category out of all of them. There were 8 that I think are like pretty close to like automatic for me, who I would put in no matter what. Unfortunately, you got to limit it to 5.
Can we do the debate we're waiting for right now?
Yeah, let's do. Are we talking about the one that you have that I don't?
I have one that Parker vehemently disagrees with. So go.
Oh, I thought you were going to do it. My bad.
So we want to talk about the man who I believe is the innovator of flying, the man who I think helped take an outlaw promotion to become one of the biggest promotions in Japan. It's Hayabusa, and that is my 5th man that I picked. And Parker disagrees with me, but I think Hayabusa should get in because he innovated the flying style that we see so much today. I mean, he was able to go take FMW from a niche. It's really, if you think about it, it'd be like if GCW in the US these days, if GCW became one of the top promotions in Japan, in the US. So I just think that the way he did that was so, and also the fact that if you look at his catalog, he went in and he main evented Budokan Hall for All Japan, and he was able to come in as the outsider and have compelling matches. And I think he was such a great wrestler. So I think Hayabusa is a very good pick, and he's in for me.
Okay, couple things. First, I'm just going to go down the Japan candidates to see kind of where Hayabusa is fitting in this conversation. So we have Choshu and Hamaguchi, Shima, Kojima and Tenzan, Fujiwara, Hayabusa, Ibushi, Inoki and Sakaguchi, Ishii, Marufuji, Naito, Meiko, Shingo, Toyota and Yamada, and Holy Demon Army are the Japan candidates. So out of that list, I would absolutely put Hayabusa in like the bottom third. I think his resume like kind of pales in comparison to a lot of the other ones that we're seeing, and there's 2 reasons for that. So I'm going to do my first big reason is the drawing, right? I think his drawing power is massively overrated by a lot of people. I think you make a good point with the Budokan going into All Japan, right, and main eventing Budokan. You do have to put it within the context of the time where All Japan was running Budokan like twice a month, and they were, I mean, you could have thrown anybody, I feel like, there and in a main event and done pretty well. So I don't give him a ton of credit for that, although I do think that's more than I was giving him credit for. FMW drew massive $50,000-$60,000 houses. That can't be denied. I do not think that was because of Hayabusa. Maybe partially because of Hayabusa, but it was because of the death matches. Like it was because they were doing something completely unique in wrestling that nobody else was doing. And so I think to ascribe drawing power to him, it just doesn't coalesce with what I think reality was at the time. Like I would be curious to like survey the people who were attending those shows to see whether Hayabusa or whether Onita or anybody else, the women's deathmatch stuff, all that type of stuff, whether that was the draw within there. So for that reason, I just don't. And then the innovation, he absolutely innovated flying. He was the number one reason that flying was innovated in Japan. However, again, to the extent to which he was, I think is a little bit overrated. You had Michinoku Pro guys doing a lot of the similar flying at the same time, and we see evidence of that when they're coming over to WWF in the mid-90s, right? We're seeing plenty of flying. Even Liger had done some like flying already at the time, right? And it wasn't to the extent that Hayabusa was to like the Dragon Gate-esque, like what we think of when we think of like a lucha slash Perot type of moveset and and style, but I just don't think it comes together. So out of that list, I think Hayabusa is one of the lowest that I would choose. But at the same time, this list is so like crazy stacked that if all the categories were put together and like distributed evenly, I think Hayabusa may have gotten in for me. But out of that Japan list, I don't think so.
I also think that we can talk about a slam dunk right here. I don't know.
Well,
if you're
really quickly, I want to talk about our other definite disagreement, which is Naito, right?
Oh yeah, Naito.
So-
I do not believe Naito has a case.
So we'll go in reverse this time. I'm gonna make the case first. My big thing is I think if you have Ibushi in, Naito's resume is so similar to Ibushi's, aside from of course the DDT stuff, that I'm like, yeah, Naito should be in a decade as one of the top 5 stars in Japanese wrestling, 3 Wrestle Kingdom main events, a 2-time G1 winner, fantastically compelling in-ring worker, leader of the most over stable in Japan in the last probably half decade, right? And you wonder what his career would have been like if the pandemic hadn't started right when he was getting his legs under him as the champion. That's kind of the one thing, is that he just wasn't champion for that long. But I think his unique, like innovative, but very unique in the Japanese wrestling world, which is very much in-ring focused and sports based, to get that unique charisma that he provided alongside all those accolades that I gave. And I just think he's a one of a kind like wrestler. I think you have to vote him in. So why did you exclude Naito?
You basically said my one reason. I think that just the lack of time on top, which isn't his fault. I think that if it wasn't for pandemic, I think Naito would be a slam dunk, obviously. But I think that it's hard to vote a guy that really never had the reign on top of any company. I mean, he came up as a guy who had his main event, which I don't know if he was supposed to win originally or not, but the fans did not give or care about his first babyface run. So I feel like that's one thing where you wonder what happens if you had the reign on top. But his work, I can't deny how good of his work has been as the LIG leader, of course. But really, the main sticking thing is there's so many strong candidates, and I think the fact that he never had that reign on top, and who knows, Naito could still win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship and have that reign on top with fans, all of that. But because he never had a World Championship reign on top, I just can't vote him in over some of the other candidates.
Jimmy, what do you think about Naito's case?
I agree with your earlier point about Naito linking in with Ibushi. I think I've seen a lot of cases for Ibushi to get in, and I think like you say, similar sort of case. If you put one in, I feel like you've also got to consider the other in a similar vein. The list, before we started this podcast, I'll admit I hadn't really looked too much into the nominees. It's a stacked list, so
it's unbelievable. I would say for me, up to about 12 of them are people who I would legitimately vote in, like without a ton of thought, and that's insane out of a category of 16. So, yeah, awesome. Let's see, who else do we have here? So we have one that I think you and I are both voting for, Murph, that I don't think will get in ever, and that is Shima.
Which is crazy. I think that
you're the Dragon Gate guy, so I'm going to let you go over Shima's case. But I just, whatever you say, I'm going to completely concur with. So go for it.
I think it's ridiculous. I mean, the guy is just has drawn for Dragon Gate. I mean, he main evented countless.
But do you agree with me that he'll probably never get in?
I think if it wasn't for COVID, and he got his extended run with AEW, he was supposed to move to Mexico and work AEW and AAA. I think if he worked that extensive run in North America, I think he would have gotten in. But I think it's going to be tough for him to get in, eventually. But I also think that just from his case, I mean, main evented countless Kobe Worlds, which is the second, you could say the biggest non-New Japan show.
Yeah, the biggest non-New Japan show every year is Kobe World.
It's the Kobe World. He held Open the Dream Gate, I believe, 3 times. I believe he's 3-time champion, which wasn't surpassed until this year, and he hadn't been in the company for a good 3 years. I mean, he was he just innovate. I mean, Sasha Banks, who's like the biggest women's star in, I believe, maybe U.S. history, does the Meteora. That's all you need for the innovation. And I think the fact that he's been able to leave and, put over this new promotion, it's not drawing really well right now, but, they're building the infrastructure and, just getting bigger. And, he took the chance with the China thing. It just didn't work. It was not all of it was his fault. I mean, he was so
COVID stopped it. Yeah, they could have done more, but COVID stopped
it. I think that if he had that extended AEW run, it'd be a no-brainer, and I think he would get in. But just on his Dragon Gate acumen alone, I think CIMA is a no-brainer, and I think that CIMA has to be voted. And for all the talent he's taken under his wing. I mean, you have T-Hawk, who he never
every strong heart, yeah,
every strong heart. He's drawn on the indies. I mean, DDT for the beginning of part of 2020, their best like houses were was it Damnation and Strong Hearts?
Yeah, Damn Hearts, yeah.
And the guy wrestled Kenny Omega on the third AEW show. I mean, the guy just has traveled the world, being one of the best. I think one of the best businessmen from a wrestler that just started a wrestler. So I think CIMA is a slam dunk, and if he got the AEW run that we all expect him to get, I think that it would be even more of a slam dunk.
Yeah, I just want to concur what you're saying and just sort of reemphasize the innovation to do what he did and to draw such consistently massive houses for Dragon Gate year after year as a junior heavyweight, like in a junior heavyweight promotion.
Became the second.
Yeah,
the junior heavyweight promotion became the second biggest promotion in Japan.
And he's the main reason behind that. It's like him, and then a little bit of Shingo, and then it's like a lot of people, like all together, right?
Him, Shingo, Doi, Yoshino, Yamato, but really it's all.
But I think outside of Shingo, they all pale in comparison to CIMA's influence as the top guy.
CIMA's the guy, and CIMA should get in. I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. But I frankly do not think he's ever getting in. Unfortunately, Dragon Gate just doesn't have the pull, the power.
Oh, we didn't talk about the Von Erichs.
You want to talk about the Von Erichs, bro?
I feel like come on, the Von Erichs, bro.
So I'm talking about Roman.
Yeah, no, but Roman's new. You know what I mean? How many years have Von Erichs got left? Like on the ballot.
I think they're new because they just started allowing tag teams in.
Oh, okay.
They got
so they should have like many years.
Just nice for Kevin, ain't it?
Staying.
There were draws. There were huge draws.
Yeah.
So if they obviously they carried the promotion literally. Like
yeah.
So
this is it's very sad to say, but like the longevity isn't there, obviously.
Well,
the way you said that.
Well, I mean, it's reality though. Like,
grim, bro. That's why.
I mean, it's the same. Like, how many countless wrestlers died young, and we don't give them, the credit of having this all-time legend career because they died in the middle of it, right? So stuff like that. So no, I get what you're saying though, and I do believe that if the Von Erichs hadn't had so many tragedies, like that this tag team would be like a slam dunk no-brainer for first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. But and again, Monty, that category is so stacked. Like we didn't even talk about Roman, and we didn't even talk about Becky, and we didn't talk about Tully and Arn, right? And the Steiners. It's crazy how stacked these categories are.
Stick with
okay.
Japan. I think that the next
let's stick with Japan.
the next candidate's
of course.
Kota Ibushi.
Yep.
We both
like I said, I think Ibushi has a very similar case to Naito, at least in the last like half decade, of course, right? One of the top handful of guys in the entire country. Fantastic, unique in-ring worker, both as a tag team wrestler and as a singles wrestler. Multiple Wrestle Kingdom main events, multiple G1 victories, all that type of stuff, right? So I mean, I think his New Japan run speaks for itself, of course. And then you put on top of that, and this is why I think he has a slightly better case than Naito, but one that I think is still comparable, is DDT. Being the top guy for DDT, the one to bring DDT to the Budokan, to the heights that it has reached. I think it's possible to imagine a world where DDT is not nearly as
2AW.
strong and pervasive as it is. What's that?
Where it's 2AW, like DDT.
Where it's like even you know even a smaller promotion that's not even like Glee. Like I could easily see it being something more that size, but as opposed to something that's running Korakuen twice a month, right? Occasional bigger shows in Ota Ward and in Nagoya, and occasionally going back to Sumo Hall and all that. And they did run that one Budokan show, and Ibushi's the reason. Ibushi was the guy. Golden Lovers was a big part of that as well.
100%.
But so I think you couple that with the incredible top tier A-lister superstar run that he had in Japan, or that in New Japan, then I think you got to vote him in.
I think that the things that separate Ibushi from Naito with me is, drawing, 14,000 of the Budokan Hall as like in a junior heavyweight feud from an outlaw promotion. I feel like that stands for itself. I don't need to elaborate further. And I think the in-ring, I personally am higher on Ibushi's in-ring work than Naito. I think
they're pretty comparable personally, but I could see that.
I think Ibushi's a tier better. And I think that also Ibushi going into New Japan as an outsider, being able to achieve what he's done, also, in my opinion, gives him points. The fact, I feel like that just when you have a guy come in and just win everything that you have to do in the company as a guy coming from an outlaw promotion, I feel like that's a big case, and I feel like that's all you really need to say on Ibushi.
Jimmy, what do you think about Ibushi's inclusion? I personally thought he should have been in last year. Like I thought he was pretty much in the conversation of being a first ballot guy, but he didn't. But I'm thinking he will this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think like you say, New Japan run, junior stuff, main event stuff, tag stuff as well with Kenny. It's all top tier. He's been around that main event scene pretty much ever since he became a heavyweight. Stuff with that run with Kenny with matches with the Bucks. Incredible
that
stuff.
2018 was unbelievable.
Yeah, and again, he had the match with Ospreay and Tanahashi, the Ishii matches, and
one of them. I mean, as a tag team, arguably one of the best in-ring years ever as a tag team between the Golden Lovers.
Kenny Omega, they were both juggling single runs on top of that. I mean,
Kenny was also the heavyweight champion, right?
and Ibushi was the never openweight championship at the time.
Yeah, for a little bit. Yeah. And of course they both did G1 at that time too, and then fought each other, of course, in that year. So Ibushi I think should have been a first ballot, and I really hope he gets in this year. Although now that I was thinking about it, with how stacked this category is, it's I don't know, he might not. So
one more slam dunk I think there is Holy Demon Army. I think we both have them.
Yeah, this is the one that I think out of this category will get in for sure. It's Holy Demon Army, Taue and Kawada. They're just like one of the best in-ring tag teams of all time. A consistent 10,000+ draw without like slam dunk, no problem. They were going to get that if they're going to Budokan, right? With All Japan, just consistently this is one where this is why we include tag teams in the Observer conversation. It's for teams like Holy Demon Army, and
I still think Taue should get in by himself. But what's it called?
That's a tough one.
I think Holy Demon Army gets in, and
I do think Holy Demon Army are getting in this year for sure. Yeah, so that's our other slam dunk. So I think
we have one.
So left. I think we've talked to everybody for you, right?
I have one more.
You have one more. Do I have one more? Who have we talked about that I have in that you don't?
We talked about Shima, Ibushi, Hayabusa. So you have one slot.
I have one more, and you have one more. All right, my one more is Fujiwara. I think his innovation combined with the fact that he was a pioneer in blending pro wrestling and mixed martial arts, which still pervades today, right? We're still seeing that combination in wrestling, and the fact you combine that with the fact that he was a legitimate mainstream star, like people know who Fujiwara is I think all you need to get that done. His slights against him, even though he wrestled over 3,000 career matches, he doesn't really have that many like defining in-ring performances that you can think of when you're thinking of like this all-time great. But I think his innovation, pioneership, and the fact that he was a mainstream star are enough to overcome that and get him in on my ballot. And then so Murph, who's your one more?
He's the only person on this ballot who's going in specifically on one case. He never really drew. He didn't really like innovate anything. He's just one of the greatest wrestlers, wrestlers to ever live.
And it's Ishii, right?
Tomohiro Ishii. Like it's no brainer for me. I mean, guy's just unreal in the ring. You know, his just G1. So I'll speak for itself. I don't feel like I need to say much. I think that his in-ring work is good enough where he should get in. And I agree with Dave.
Consistency over the years and shit as well.
You know, he's gone over everywhere he's gone to in the in-ring work. I mean, he torn down so many houses in the United States, like just tearing the house down. I mean, you know, in Japan, it speaks for itself.
The Impact Zone, and you know,
Ishii gets in.
The reason, he main evented an Impact pay-per-view this year. Like, I mean, I know that's not a big deal, but he main evented a pay-per-view in the United States, like an actual one from one of the top.
He's worked on AEW Dynamite, I bebelieve, countless times.
Yeah, he's worked on Dynamite. He's worked on Rampage. He had that classic match against Adam Cole.
That's right. I mean,
but yeah, no. The only reason I didn't include Ishii, although I would if they were like, you can vote for as many as you want, I would absolutely. I just don't. I completely concur that he's one of the best in-ring workers of all time. I just don't think he's materially better than people like Ibushi, Shingo, Mako, and even maybe like Naito, and then the tag team of Toyota and Yamada, and of course Holy Demon Army, to the point where it's like so much that it puts him over the edge when it comes to those other people who all drew more, who all had more superstardom, who all, you know, were more pioneers in that type of sense. But like I said, I have no qualms with including Ishii. Okay, let's move on to, we're going to go a little bit quicker here because it's not categories that we're informed on them, but it's not like I'm watching indie lucha libre every week like I am trying to with you know, Japanese wrestling, right? So in Mexico, I think you and I both have this guy is a no-brainer, Mystico.
Oh,
right.
The biggest no-brainer on the ballot, in my opinion. It's
yeah.
The guy's a draw. I mean, U.S. run did not work out, but like he tried, and that's, I feel like,
year to year drawing, he was an unbelievably consistent draw at Arena Mexico, which draws, you know, over 10,000 every single week.
He would be considered as part of, you know, not El Santo tier, of course, because that's just unreal. But he would be considered one of like the pillars of Mexican wrestling had he stayed.
Oh yeah, he's like a Blue Demon Jr. or a Blue Panther or someone like that, right?
Psycho Clown, like he'd be on Psycho Clown.
Hijo del Santo, right? Yeah. So,
you know, this guy's just unreal. I mean, Mystico has done so much. You know, he hasn't been like lately, but did you guys see the video of like when he returned as Mystico? It was like the biggest like thing in CMLL.
It was unbelievable. Like, it's so cool. Yeah. This
guy's a living legend.
It sucks to me that his US run was such a failure. Yeah. And it's weird to me. People weirdly put that on him.
No.
But like, it's WWE. Like, how many people have they fucked up over the years to where we're not getting their best selves?
They made him wear the mask that didn't work, that you couldn't see through.
Yeah, people uniquely ascribe that to him for some reason, I think, but they don't do that for others, I think, which is very, very odd to me. But anyway,
that's my first candidate of my two.
Yeah, Jamie, just curiosity's sake, like, do you watch Lucha Libre ever? Or do you ever check that out outside of like Triple Mania or anything?
So I try to keep up with like the big shows these days, but I'll admit, like, you know, past stuff. So stuff for this sort of ballot is not really my wheelhouse. But I'll, you know, apart from that. The one name from that list that I'm just looking at now, that I would say, just from what I know about them, that deserves it would be Mystico. You know, just from stuff I have seen from his previous runs, and I'm not too familiar with a few of the other names, so he'd be my nailed-on pick, just from like experience.
The other thing for Mystico is he won He's the only luchador, I believe, to ever win the Most Outstanding Wrestler award from the Observer, which is an incredibly prestigious award. And I think that like kind of speaks for itself, right?
I see the comment that says like the reason we so botchies. Yeah, you know what? You know how they put the yellow like lights on for all of his matches? Like that was because like he could not see through his mask on like normal lighting. So yeah, that is just crazy. And there's one more candidate that I think that I'm voting for Mexico.
Yeah, I put in 4. Who's your? Can I guess who is your second one? Hijo del Santo in Octagon.
It's not.
Ooh, is it Villanos?
Los Hermanos Dinamita.
Oh, and Hermanos Dinamitas.
I
go for it.
I mean, I haven't watched too much old Lucha Libre, but from what I've seen, these guys are legends. I mean, it's and their legacy is still going on with I believe their nephews. I think it is, and the Dinamita name is just like unreal, and they drew, of course. So that's really the only thing I can say on it. I'm thinking about adding Villanos too, because I've like learned a little more about Los Villanos, and I feel like they'd be getting on too. But there's only two.
I have 4 entries, and it is the 4 that we've talked about. Hermanos Dinamita, like they were a dominant stable, like a main event stable in both CML and AAA, which I think speaks for itself. There was also, thank you, Manny. They were also the top draw without a doubt behind Triple Mania 1, the first Triple Mania, which is, I believe, the top drawing show in Mexico history. So yeah, just because of that, like they were so popular. And Mexico is a unique place because they're running weekly shows, but at consistent locations. They don't necessarily tour quite as much, and so drawing where you are, you're able to see very consistent drawing trends based on over time and stuff like that. And so that's why I think drawing is kind of uniquely important to the Mexican ballot. I also included Los Villanos. And I think that it's one word. It's longevity for them. They have been enacted. What's that?
I think I'm going to add them to my ballot too.
Yeah.
I think it's just.
I mean, they were a top drawing stable for literally 50 years. Like I don't know how much more longevity you can get from that as an in-ring performer. We just had a Villano main event Triple Mania. They main evented countless major shows throughout Mexico, both CMLL and AAA and Indies. They're just all over the place, and they've just done like so much. And there's a ton of them too, so they're just all over the place, right?
And then
go ahead.
I thought we're moving on. Sorry, I was.
Oh no, yeah. And then the other one was Hijo del Santo in Octagon. Probably, maybe, perhaps the greatest in-ring tag team in Mexican history, right? And wow, perfect timing from Manny. Octagon and Santo are one of the greatest tag teams. I think they're the greatest in-ring tag team in Mexican history. Just so fast-paced, so innovative. They were awesome baby faces, right? They were so fun to watch. And then they had that legacy-defining moment at When Worlds Collide against Eddie and Art, right? Where they were... It's just like... That show is so legendary, and they were the best part of that legendary show. And I think that helps put them over the edge, too.
And then in the Europe category, I'm only voting for one person.
Big Daddy.
You actually are? Who's that?
I'm voting for Dominic DeNucci, who's a Pittsburgh legend. He's a Pittsburgh wrestler.
Oh, that's cool.
I know a lot about him. So
you gotta get Big Daddy in, bro.
Big Daddy.
Bro.
Daddy.
No way.
We need Big Daddy, bro.
Tell us about Big Daddy.
Any if you ask any person from the United Kingdom about wrestling, they'll ask about they'll tell you about Big Daddy. Every older wrestling fan knows
that's
about
how
Big
it is with
that's what it used to be back then. It was Big Daddy, giant haystacks, just just big fuckers bumping into each other.
I think haystacks is on the ballot too. He's not. I think he might. Is he historic?
He got in, I believe.
Is he in?
Oh, is he in?
I thought I saw it. Maybe I'm thinking.
We need Big Daddy
I'm thinking
bro.
of somebody else. Yeah.
Ask anyone's grandma or granddad in the UK about Big Daddy and giant haystacks. They'll tell you that's when wrestling was real. That's when it mattered. It is in
Pittsburgh with San Martino and Dominic DeNucci and Johnny DeFazio. So that's why I'm voting.
Were they dog shit in the ring? Of course they were.
Of course,
it doesn't matter.
They were fucking like 400 pounds, but they were just big, charismatic British fuckers that people just loved, and they're definitely, like I said, the influence in the UK is like huge, So I think even go on.
Go ahead, Monty. Sorry.
No, I was pretty much done anyway.
So I just want to, because you guys would probably be more informed, at least just on a basic like cultural level, on European, and this is also like Australia, New Zealand, Pacific Islands, and Africa. So it's everywhere except the U.S., Mexico, and Japan. So I'm just going to read these names and see if anybody sticks out to you. So like Cypros Arian, Lange Blanc, Big Daddy, Dominic DiNucci, we talked about, right? Billy Joyce, George Kidd, Killer Carl Cox, Kendo Nagasaki, Jackie Paulo, Rollerball, Rocco, the Royal Brothers, Johnny Saint, Ricky Starr, Adrian Street, Jose Torres, and Otto Vons. Did any of those stick out to you as like somebody who you think should maybe be in?
No, not anyone who not too many names that jump off the page, except for Big Daddy.
It's true. You're right, Ayo. Could you imagine?
It's not for non-wrestlers.
Okay, non-wrestlers is a super fun category because obviously wrestling is not just about the in-ring talent. It's
about everything.
There's so much that goes into it: the production, the commentary, the music, the booking, the journalism around it. Right? What's that?
Belts is one of my
belts. Yep. So yeah, we got a belt maker on this list, and yeah, so we can. It's kind of hard to plan this one out. I'm just going to go over some people that I included. I don't need to go into all of them, but I'm going to go into them a little bit. So in non-wrestler, two that I really wanted to highlight were Joe Higuchi, who most consider to be either the best or the second best Japanese referee of all time. The other person in that
that's an easy one for me.
Yeah, that's the other person in that category would be Wada of All Japan, who I think should be on the ballot. But he was an essential, in addition to that, instead of just being like an incredible referee, like a Red Shoes level referee, right? He also had like essential backstage influence in All Japan. He was the lead talent exchange guy, and he was on the booking team for Noah. So like during the time where they were, running Budokan all the time. So I think Joe Higuchi has to be on there. And then another one. Okay, here's one that I know Jamie San's got some opinions on. It's going to be Rossi Ogawa, who I am voting in. He is the first Joshi promoter to reach mainstream success, Budokan, Sumo Hall in Japan in about 2 decades, right? It's pretty remarkable what he's been able to do. And he did it throughout a pandemic, right? This growth was not happening before the pandemic happened. Which I think is just remarkable on his end. And in addition to that, his company has put on some of the greatest women's matches of the 21st century. Like, he's putting on some of the best, unique, innovative women's wrestling that we've ever seen. And
he's
so
on a crazy run right now.
Yeah. And they're just exploding in popularity. It's unbelievable how fast they're going. So I think Rossi should be in. Jamie, what do you think about that?
For Rossi.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Like, for those who don't know much about me, Stardom's my favorite promotion right now. Has been for like a few years. To quote one of my favorite wrestlers and one of Parker's favorite wrestlers, Sheamus, every pay-per-view, banger after banger after banger. The consistency's insane. They just had another pay-per-view recently for the type league and
they have like 3 a week.
Yeah. Yeah. My bank account takes quite the hit. Rolls around, but yeah, I mean, and like he's been around for quite a while as well, even before Stardom, a lot of stuff before that. But just in terms of like what he's currently doing and how much Stardom stock's raised, I think he deserves to be in there, absolutely.
Kwame brings up a good point here, talking about it. He was a big part of All Japan Women, RCN, right? He also founded JD Star, which is kind of like Actress. Yeah, it was the predecessor to Stardom, but it was very similar to like Actress Girls is now. So very much an innovator in terms of creating legitimate, lasting, drawing women's wrestling after it completely collapsed at the start of the 21st century. So yeah, really cool stuff. And I'm glad that he's on the ballot. And I think he may get some surprising support. So that's cool. Couple other people on my ballot for non-wrestler. George Scott. He was the longtime booker for Jim Crockett Promotions. He was one of the lead organizers for the early WrestleManias as well. He had a long, successful career as a wrestler himself. They were the Flying Scots tag team. He was a constant main event presence in, I believe, the Midwest in like the 50s. And then he also, this is just like a fun thing, but it's very impactful. He innovated the reverse figure four. The person who, when you have it slapped on and you turn over and reverse the pressure.
I love that.
He was the one who innovated that. So I think George Scott is a good pick for me. Murph, who else you got in non-wrestler?
So in addition to Joe Gucci, I have Jim Johnson. I think that's a no-brainer for me personally.
Mhm.
I mean, just the songs this guy's made. I mean, just like the cultural significance, when you hear the "Are you ready?" Like, I mean, like there's some things like, there's just some themes that he's made that like, I mean, let me just go on here and pull up some Jim Johnson themes like
The entire Attitude Era, and before, and come on,
you got The Rock, you got the Stone Cold, the original Stone Cold theme. You have basically every WWE theme for the Kurt Angle "You Suck" theme. You got. Let's look at some weird ones.
How WWE theme song just absolutely sucked dick. No.
Oh yeah, it's almost like it changed when Jim
Johnson,
Johnston left.
I think Jim Johnson is a no-brainer. I think I love belts. Reggie Parks, Reggie Parks made some of the most important.
He made the Winged Eagle, right?
Winged Eagle. He was originally Stu Hart's guys, but he made, the Winged Eagle. I believe he made an iteration of the gold belt, the big gold. I mean, like as it came on, and he made belts for AWA, the NWA, WCW. I mean, that's a no-brainer for me. And one that I'm very strong for is Sanshiro Takagi. I mean, you were talking about how big Kota Ibushi was for DDT earlier, but this guy has just been able to innovate so much stuff over the years. Constantly coming up with new things. The stuff that this guy thinks of, whether it's a good or bad, I mean, it works with his audience. It's still around. I mean, DDT's been around since I believe 1998, which is unreal.
It's possible that there has been nobody in wrestling history who has come up with more unique ways to make his fans like laugh and smile. Yeah. Like that's such an arbitrary and like impossible to like quantify thing.
Yeah,
but it's genuinely possible.
I mean, the guy
found, I remember was he the founder of DDT? Did he found it?
He was the founder of DDT.
He was the founder, yeah.
Been owner until I believe 2018. I believe he sold the company, but he's still the main creative force. And I remember I watched a documentary on DDT, and I saw his main thing is I made DDT because I'm a kid that didn't want to grow up. That's why he's called Wrestle Peter Pan, because I was a kid who never wanted to grow up, and I want other people to be able to like live like a kid for a while. And I think that he's just like the way he's innovated and got to that goal. I think he's a no-brainer for me.
He's also the president of Pro Wrestling Noah after the Cyber Fight purchase. He used to be the CEO of Wrestle One as well. And he was also
that's a negative on his the way he handled that. That's not good for his accolade.
Wrestle One was I loved Wrestle One.
I love it. I love it slide. One.
I know this.
The next episode is on the Wrestle One TNA. We'll talk about that.
Our next episode is going to be on the Wrestle One TNA pay per view. Was it Bound for Glory
there was Kaizen Outbreak and Ryogoku Sumo Hall. There was Bound for Glory 2014. Then for a good year they were sending people back and forth, but that's against the point.
So the other thing about Takagi is, by the way, he was a fucking wrestler and still is a wrestler, and he won the KOD Openweight Championship 6 times. And he was tag champ 4 times. He continues to wrestle. He comes out on the big shows, and the people love him. He's so over. He's so popular. The more I talk about it, like he was on my ballot as well. But the more I talk about that, the more I'm like, out of all these guys, pretty much he's like the one for me. Then the other person I'm definitely voting in is Larry Madison. Not Ted Turner. I'm not voting in Ted Turner. Fuck that. Fuck WCW. I hated WCW. I think it was garbage. But Larry Madison, who is considered by many to be the greatest wrestling announcer of all time, he announced for Wrestling at the Chase and the NWA and all that type of stuff. and he had encyclopedic. Of course, he consulted in booking and everything like that. He was adamant that he'd not get involved in angles and things like that. He just purely wanted to make the show better and more entertaining. He also was the first announcer to kind of break the fourth wall and refer to fans as fans and be like, and try to guide a little bit sort of subtly behind the scenes where the fans should be, cheering or booing or whatever. So he was just a pioneer and innovator on how to be a wrestling announcer. And there's also this little tidbit. Dave Meltzer was quoted as saying in his obituary that he learned more about wrestling from Larry Matysik than any other person. Dave Meltzer said that. So I think that's a pretty powerful testament there. Is there anybody else in non-wrestling that you're voting in, Murph?
I'm voting for Bobby Bruns. I feel like that's someone that I didn't really know about much of, but for people who don't know, he basically organized the first tour of American Pro Wrestling in Japan. And along with Ricky Dozan, just kind of popularized the sport that I now is probably the third biggest sport in Japan now. And I mean, we talk a lot because of Japanese wrestling. So just from a historical aspect, I feel like Dave's just hearing about Bobby Bruns just sold me on that.
Awesome. All right. Well, this was a ton of fun talking about this Hall of Fame stuff. I'm so stoked to have a ballot. I know you are too, Murph. It's really cool to be able to contribute and participate in stuff like this. You'll be able to see the results. Probably they usually don't come out for like a while, right? So in a few months, I want to say, just when everything gets turned in and tabulated and all that type of stuff. But before the end, I assume I'll be posting my full ballot by the end of this. Murph, I assume you will as well.
Yes, of course.
Yep. So we'll be sharing all that too. You can also follow the Observer Hall of Fame tracker account that's run by JML.
And I'm submitting mine with them, publicly. Mm-hmm. So
yep. So excellent. So we'll be going through that as well. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about some stardom, shall we? Let's talk about some stardom that's been going on recently. First of all, I have to give a caveat. I have not watched this weekend's Stardom show. You know me. I have a job. Unfortunately, unlike our viewers, I have a job, and I have like
scaring away the viewers
and all that type of stuff. Yeah, I know it's tough, but no. I love Stardom, and it's unfortunate that I haven't gotten there. But I heard, Jamie, that this show this weekend was absolutely fantastic. So go over the main happenings, what's going on, big matches, all that type of stuff, and we'll jump in on our thoughts.
Yeah, so most recent Stardom pay-per-view, for those who aren't familiar with or haven't kept up with Stardom recently, this is the start of the Goddess of Stardom Tag League, which is one of now 4 annual tournaments that they run. They recently announced a trios tournament, so that's a new one. So it runs in a pretty similar way to another of their tournaments, which is the 5-star. It's sort of a 2-block thing, each team in each block face each other, 2 points for a win, 1 for a draw, that sort of thing, then end up in the final. So we had it was the opening round, first few matches, a few pretty big matches on this this opening round. We had Mafia Bella, which is a personal favourite of mine. That's Julia and Tekla.
I love the names they give the teams. Like they give every team a name. I love that.
There's some incredible ones. I'm a big fan of We Love Tokyo Sports.
It's so great though. Like little stuff like that is just, it takes 2 seconds to think of, but it adds so much like characterization to these people. It's like, I know it's one of the reasons, Murph, you love Dragon Gate is because
you stole the words out of my mouth. I didn't want to but
but it's because they put they have multiple names for it. They have all their signature moves are named, all the wrestlers, they have all these stables, all these teams, all that type of stuff, and it just adds so much engagement to it. So yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, so like I said, we have Mafia Bella facing I believe that is the team name Meltier. I still don't quite get I don't get the name. I don't really know what that's about, but that's Tam Nakano and Natsupoi, the current tag team champions over there. So that was a big match. And then besides the opening rounds, the 2 co-main events, I guess, were the IWGP Women's Title tournament matches. So we had on the international side, we had Kyrie facing Alpha Female. Alpha Female, who beat.
Who is Alpha Female?
Is she the former Jazzy Gabert from
Mhm.
WWE?
Yeah, she was in the
Mae Young
Mae
Classic.
Young Classic.
That's
one year,
interesting.
I believe.
That's
She's a
interesting.
former World of Stardom champion.
She's been a world champ in Stardom.
Wait.
People think she sucks. I don't think she sucks. I think she's actually quite good.
Can we talk about
just
these
think-
names real quick? Can we go through the names?
of the World of Stardom champion.
My Sakurai and Lady C is My Fair Lady. I
Yeah,
love
that's such a good name.
Siri, and one of my personal favorites, Tomoko Naba, is Karate Brave.
Yeah, these names are so good, dude.
Mayu and the 37-year-old Komomo is Peach Star Rock. Julia
That one's not that creative.
Julianne Thekla is Mafia Bella. I like that.
Jamie, did he just say Thekla?
I don't watch Stardom, dude. Like,
What are we
get
doing here?
off me. Get off
That's
me.
right.
Do you even watch the product, Murph?
I don't even watch the product.
Yeah, do you even watch the product? You don't watch their house shows?
No.
Momo and Starlight Kid is Black Desire.
Mhm.
Saki Kashima and Fukigen Death is We Love Tokyo Sports, which is the best name of all of them.
That's the best one.
Tam and Poi is Meltier. I don't know what that is. And then Utami and Saya is Aphrodite, which I think they've been that for a couple of years now.
Aphrodite, yeah. All right. So yeah, we had a ton of tag league matches. We were getting into get into those co-main events though with Alpha Female and Kyrie.
Yeah, so like I said, that was the international bracket. The first match on that international bracket was Alpha Female versus Ava White. I know nothing about Ava White other than she apparently,
Bro,
she got a big
I know
Twitter
a lot
following.
about wrestling. I know a lot about women's wrestling in particular. I have no fucking idea who Ava White is. I don't know how she got in this tournament. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm glad that she didn't win this. I'm glad it was in fact Alpha Female coming to Japan to wrestle.
Yeah. You know when they initially announced this international bracket? Remember when they hyped up? They had a big international star,
Sasha Banks,
non-Japanese. Was that meant to be Ava White? Is that who that was, or was that?
I think it was.
Is that what
No,
we
I
went for?
mean, wasn't it meant to be Alpha Female? Isn't that what?
They
what
probably
it was?
overestimated how big of a name she was.
Right. Okay. Because I was, slightly confused. So that happened at Royal Quest, I believe. Like there's Charlie there. She was there. I haven't seen that match yet. I don't know if I'm gonna.
I don't know if you need to.
I don't imagine it was.
That was the match that like GIF came, or that video came from, that everybody was sharing about how like bad it was when like did Ava like drop Gabriel on her head?
Was that
or
the
something?
tag? I think there was a tag match. There was a tag match on the one day, and they had the match on the other day. And I think that spot might have been the tag. I'm not sure.
But they started like going after each other. They were scrapping. Them ladies were scrapping, and people were like, "This is so bad. This is so shitty wrestling."
Banger after banger after banger after
I was like,
banger.
no,
after banger.
no, this is good. You guys don't have taste. This is so much better than you get like Joshi shitters who are like, what if this was Chie Koishikawa, or what if this was Itsuki
What if they're
Aoki?
wrestling on a mat in a dentist's office?
Yeah, what if this was? Oh, I'm trying to think of another Joshi shitter. What if this was Yako or Akino?
What are you saying, bro?
I'm just naming the shittiest Joshi wrestlers of all time. But no, I thought that was actually pretty good. But I'm very very glad that Alpha Female won and then lost here to Kyrie.
Yeah, so Kyrie won that match. I believe Kyrie's still undefeated, right, since coming back.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So she won that match. So she'll be in the final, which will be happening at the New Japan X Stardom crossover show, which is next month, I believe.
That's at the old Differayake, right?
It is. It's a great venue. I'm really excited for that.
I'm excited. Isn't No Running there this weekend?
Yeah, they're going back to it. It's got to have been like renovated, right? This is why
That's
everybody's
awesome.
going back to it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Like that's
it's an iconic venue. It's so cool that people are going back to it.
But anyway, so the other side of the bracket, the Japan bracket, so that was exclusively Stardom wrestlers. There were 4 spaces available, and that was decided on They did they all drawed straws, and then each of the factions, and then the faction member with the highest points total in the 5-star Grand Prix, which was a singles tournament that happened slightly earlier in the year. They got in. So we had a day before the pay-per-view, Momo Watanabe and Mayu Iwatani. They had their match, which Mayu won, and Utami Hayashishita and Himeka had their match, which Utami won. So in the main event of this pay-per-view, we had Mayu Iwatani and Utami Hayashishita in a really, really good match. Mayu Iwatani, our wrestler of the week this week.
Yeah, that's right. There we go. That's brain synergy.
She ended up winning that match. So the final will now be Mayu Iwatani versus Kairi, which is, pretty big match for fans of Joshi Wrestling. Stardom.
It's like it's literally the biggest possible match within reason that Stardom could put on. It's like bar none.
So that's going to be.
It's so exciting. Like that's one that I may have to be like watch live if possible. I never ever watch Japanese stuff live anymore, but that's such a big match and show, right? That I gotta watch that. But all right, cool. So excellent. There's our Stardom report. Thank you, Jamie. I can't wait to watch the show. You have made me like want to put it on right now and watch it before bed tonight. So I think I might actually do that. But Murph, I hear you have. We're gonna close it out here pretty soon here. But I hear you have a closing segment for us.
I don't know if Monty's going to give us airtime every week, but we intend the Dumb Guy Live to be a weekly show on Tuesday nights. The time is. I wanted to introduce our own little bit. Me and Parker's favorite word, the beast of the week. The beast of the week.
I love it.
My nominee for beast of the week is the 52-year-old Takao Omori. Is our beast of the week for our first ever show.
Mm-hmm.
He had a match with a Kento Miyahara, which was very good. 4.5 stars, in my opinion. 4.5 stars, and I believe it got 4.5 stars with the Wrestle Purist ratings.
4-2-4.
My beast of the week is Takao Omori.
My beast of the week is the guy he faced, Kento Miyahara. It was an incredible match. It was honestly like so fucking good. I also watched an All Japan Korakuen show right before I watched that show, and it was the show that Kento and all the All Japan young boys wrestled against Yuji Nagata and all the New Japan young boys, which was an incredible match. Like it was so good. It was so good. So he was already in my mind, and I was like, "Fuck it, we're gonna watch this in the Discord." Murph and I, we're gonna watch this Takao Omori match, and the.
Wait, can we do the Kento like clapping thing? Like,
you're doing clapping, yeah. Yeah.
That's so Jamie, who's your beast?
It's so good.
So Leo, like I already alluded to earlier, I'm gonna say mine was Mayu Iwatani. She's who I voted for our wrestler of the week. I'm yet to watch the Kento match. I'll hold my hands up and say I haven't seen that yet. So maybe on viewing of that match, my opinion will change. But in my opinion, Mayu had 2 really good matches this week. The Momo match. It wasn't the best possible match that those 2 can have. I think they can have a much better match, but it was still really good. So for me, Mayu gets my vote.
Jamie, I think Momo, and I know we want to close it out pretty soon here, but I think Momo has become almost underrated in terms of how good. Like every time she goes out there, I thought she was one of the 5 highlights of the 5-star for me, and I watched every 5-star match. She was so good. Like she's just awesome. Like she hits people harder. She works harder. She does the heel stuff, but it's not oppressive to the point where it's like too much. It's just a perfect amount for me. I think when she eventually turns back babyface, she's going to be better than she was before she turned heel last year. And that's saying something because she was already really fucking good. So I can't wait. I'm straight up going to watch watch that show as soon as we're done here. And yeah, those are our beasts of the week. But I'm going to close it out here. This is.
Wait, can I close it out?
Whoa, Montel.
My beast of the week, man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
My beast of the week is Ted Turner.
Okay, shut up. Give me a real answer.
No, my real beast of the week is Ilya. Quite easily.
That's a good choice. Mhm.
He did not have to go that crazy in an NXT triple threat match. Like,
Is he who you voted for wrestler of the week this week in
yes.
the poll? Yeah, that he was mine too. He was so awesome in that match. He's unbelievable. And it's crazy that I'm legitimately for the first time in years and years excited about the prospect of somebody like Ilya, who was so good on the indies and so good in NXT, coming to the main roster. Like it's preposterous that I'm excited about that.
I also would like to do a quick RIP to this Mark
to the messy office.
because
yeah, I have an observer scoop that legit this is not a work, everybody. The birthday present from the F4W staff to Dave was that they cleaned his office and they got it ready for live stuff there. But
How
all right,
much?
I'm gonna close it out here, everybody.
I just want to know.
Yeah.
Did they have to throw away a lot of stuff, or was it just like reorganizing?
I think they threw away a lot of stuff.
Jesus, just sitting on papers, surfing,
It's just stuff that doesn't matter. Stuff that's been there for
I
years.
think he thought it mattered, but it's just all logged
but
on
it
the
didn't.
internet now.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you everybody who tuned in. We got some awesome super chats too, so I really appreciate that as well.
Thank you for everyone.
But listen, I love doing this. I love the dumb guy chats. You'll catch us on Twitter pretty often here too. But we'll catch you later, everybody.
See you next
on the
week.
Dumb Guy Live.